Avengers! Assemble.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Excelsior, the world's #1 Marvel's Avengers podcast. I'm your director, Christian Buckley, joined for your episode for April 17th by the Apex legend himself, Jack Martin.
Excelsior, Christian. Looking outside my window here, there is snow on the ground in April.
Yeah.
I don't like that. There's something quite wrong about that.
Jack, it's a wild week because there's snow in April. There's content coming to this game, so there's a lot. There's a lot of weird things going on lately.
What mirror dimension have we entered?
I know. You know, it is nice though, because sometimes it doesn't seem like this way recently. Maybe it's because the last 2 years in the spring I've just stayed locked inside my house. But allergies, you know, getting dampered by the snow, not too bad. Worthy trade-off, you know, global warming, sometimes it works.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, for a few years it works, and then things all start to fail.
Yeah. But how are you doing this week?
I'm doing good. Got my second COVID shot. So, yep. No side effects yet. It was only a few hours ago. But, yeah, happy. Dude, I just has me very excited to get back to theaters. Like, that's what I'm really looking forward to at some point.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting summer.
How are you doing?
Doing pretty good, you know. I mean, no, I'm not. A lot of technical difficulties this week, you know. But thankfully, Marvel is a consistent in my life. This show is always a highlight of the week. Love talking Marvel with you. And there's plenty to discuss today because, of course, we'll be going over the Tachyon Anomaly event hitting Marvel's Avengers later this month, as well as what's new in the shop and in the game this week. And greater MCU, we got some stuff about the new episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We got some stuff about Doctor Strange 2. We got a fun little fan casting segment this week, going back to the roots. But before all of that, why don't we cover Fury's report for the week? What is new in Marvel's Avengers? The low power level mission that is highlighted if you want to get in there for some guaranteed drops. Stark Realities. Beta highlight, you know, classic one.
This is in either the low power, high power mission every week. Like, it feels like it because we just say it all the time.
Yeah, Yeah, what's more iconic, the mission from the beta called Stark Realities or the Stark Realities segment on Marvel's Avengers #1 podcast, Excelsior? I don't know how to say the name of this show today.
They're tied because they're in every episode of this show.
Fair enough. There you go. The high power level mission is Enter the Avengers. I forget what this one is because Jack, like, Enter the Avengers. It's just, I haven't done a campaign replay yet, but thinking back to that is like, is that where they like come back? But no, that's the one and we're back. But this is definitely on the East Coast. It's in the city. There's a maybe story thing tied to it. I don't know, man.
Enter the Avengers is at night. It's in New York, I believe, or maybe New Jersey. And the Avengers go into some place, they free some Inhumans, and then they come outside and they free some more Inhumans. That's what I believe Enter the Avengers is. Could be wrong, but I think that's what it is.
You are probably correct. And I just think that's so funny, man, because, like, it's definitely part of the East Coast, like, area is definitely, part of it's trying to be New York, and part of it is absolutely Jersey. And I just think it's very funny that this nebulous East Coast exists in this game. But it's like a theme park version. It's like Epcot, but for the East Coast.
Yeah, it really, like, everything's way too close to each other.
Yeah.
Like, hey, France and China aren't this close to each other.
Yeah, well, if you want to run the Harm Room Challenge for the week, whatever difficulty, you will be getting Ms. Marvel #2 from 2014. And the marketplace is sunsetting, I guess, the first initiative this week. We get the final group for the aerospace program. Jack, what is up with the marketplace this week?
Yes. So there's actually some really cool stuff in the marketplace, in my personal opinion. But starting off with what you said, the final batch of aerospace outfits, as the marketplace calls it. We have Thor, Ms. Marvel, and I almost just called her Hawk Girl. That's not her name. Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. They all have their sort of white, black, and gold aerospace outfits.
Yeah.
Thor probably my favorite of this bunch.
Yeah, dude, I kind of love the Thor one because he's got like, doesn't he have like Yggdrasil on the chest and like gold? It looks cool.
Yeah, that's the tree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It looks really cool, and he has the classic Thor like helmet with the wings coming out of him. Always love that. So yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of how the tunic looks on like this type of skin because like there's a couple Thor skins in the game. You know, there's a couple schools of Thor designs that every character has, but the one where it's like the tunic that's like looks like it's kind of padded but not like bulky, which is here. I really like this one, so I might get this because it's a cool color scheme too.
Of all the descriptors you used for this outfit, you mentioned so many keywords that reminded me of God of War.
Sure.
Because got some overlap, of course, with Thor and God of War and all that sort of stuff. So yeah,
Absolutely.
pretty cool. We also got some other cool outfits for the marketplace here. One of which is the Ghost Ronin outfit, which is for Hawkeye, for Clint Barton's Hawkeye. And it is the Ronin outfit, but completely white, save for a purple Ninja Turtles band across his waist. I can't remember who has the purple band.
That'd be Donatello.
Yes, imagine that, but across his waist. I think this looks amazing, and if I played Hawkeye as like one of my mains, this would be an instant purchase because it looks really cool.
Yeah, I think it looks way better than that purple Ronin colorway that was in the marketplace for a little bit after Clint dropped. I don't know if I'd go in on this because personally I don't love the Ronin look. I don't know if I just like never really clicked for me, but there is absolutely a Hawkeye skin in the shop that I did consider getting this week.
Yeah, tell me about this one because I love this one too.
Imagine like Victor Sullivan, Tom Selleck, old man wearing sunglasses and a nice Hawaiian shirt. That's old man Hawkeye in a Hawaiian shirt. I kind of love that.
El goddamn Dorado.
Hell yeah. Looks great, dude. I really like this one. I know it's, again, just like basically a recoloring of just the old man Hawkeye's skin because he already is wearing like an open button up, but it just looks funny. I like it. I think Hulk had like a Hawaiian tank top skin also. It's just fun. It's cool.
Yeah, I like these. I don't want to say little skin because this is little skins because these are like 900 credits, which is amounts to like $9. So it is somewhat significant, but I like the deviations and sort of experiments with skins that they do where they're just fun. You know, like is having Hawkeye run around in a Hawaiian shirt practical? Of course not, but it looks really cool and it's a video game, and I think it'd be fun to have more of these types of skins for other characters. Obviously, Hawkeye is someone from the comics who is a little bit more, comedic, and that is represented in this skin. But hey, if we had like a Captain America silly skin, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, and it's like it's big summer vibes out of this skin. Summer is not too far away. Now, of course, thinking on that train of thought, right? Like I'm thinking of other games where people monetize alternate looks, specifically that Fire Emblem mobile game that Nintendo has. That is just, it's a gacha game basically where you can like just roll characters and try to get the ones you want if you pay money. I think what this game needs this summer is a swimsuit skin line for everybody because
Whoa.
They'll make so much money off the horny.
There's traps, I was gonna say, dude.
Yeah, that honestly, that's what the game needs. It needs money, right?
I mean, there comes a point in certain games time where it's like, all right, we did good in terms of designing some good characters that stand on their own, not too overly sexual, and then there comes a point where it's like, all right, let's open the floodgates, as it were. And yeah, dude, I'd be all about that.
Did you ever see that Resident Evil 2 mod where they put Mr. X in a like Speedo thong?
I did not.
We need that for Hulk.
Sure.
Well,
We should get the Ragnarok scene of just the beads.
yeah, exactly.
Just the beads.
Yes, people, it'll make so much money. But
Hmm.
that is what you can look for in the marketplace this week. Again, it's fun. It's nothing game changing, but it's technically it's new content. But the exciting new content is coming this month on April 22nd. We officially know the Tachyon Anomaly event, which will allow players to squad up with multiple Iron Mans, multiple Kamalas, as many Black Widows as you can fit into a lobby. Uh, Tachyon Anomalies, they're coming. There is a blog post we can run through to see what exactly is going on here. And if you want, Jack, I'll just run through it and then we can debrief it, give thoughts on what this is at based on our expectations that we had when it was announced.
Yeah, go for it.
Sure. So, the official recap from the blog for event. I don't know how to get to the website other than just looking at War Table blog, but AIM's tampering with time has led to periodic tachyon anomalies. Whenever these events occur, Avengers from different timelines can converge in a single location and take on the world's threats together. The first Tachyon Anomaly is happening from April 22nd to May 3rd and allows players to form teams of more than one of the same hero, so a strike team of 4 Hulks is possible, and smashingly wild. Players can also matchmake into teams that contain the same heroes, meaning you'll never know what combination of heroes you may be part of. During these 2 weeks, there will be a weekly mission chain that rewards hive mind set gear and daily missions that reward priority set gear for high level heroes. We're also introducing temporal assault nameplates, which are animated nameplates you can get to add some shine to your experience. You'll receive an animated team nameplate as a reward for the first completion of the weekly mission chain that can be used on any hero. They go on further to talk about the Tachyon Rift missions that are being added to the game, or they're already in the game, but retroactively fitted to work whatever's going on here. The blog goes on to state, during the Tachyon Anomaly event, multiple Tachyon Rift missions will appear at a time. There will also be new Tachyon Rift missions for heroes who are power level 1 to 100, which will rotate every day and offer relevant rewards. Finally, there is a new Tachyon mission in town, and we're back.
There it is.
There it is. And then they go on to just sort of describe a little bit about what the Tachyon Rift missions are for people who may have not hopped in the past when they added them. But overall, Jack, it seems like this event is sort of lining up to be exactly what we thought it was going to be. What are your thoughts on the official word for Tachyon Anomaly or whatever it's called?
I think so. Obviously, the idea of being able to play with other people with whatever characters you want to bring into it is great. It should have been there from launch, obviously, but now they're implementing this. Like we've said before, this is probably a test of them just doing it in the future full time rather than just having a limited time event. I would hope it's probably them just sort of testing out any bugs or kinks associated with this. Not the fun kinks, but I think yeah. I think the thing that has me most excited about this is the ability to sort of get rewards for this limited time event thing. We mentioned the Black Widow Red Room takeover, which would have some sort of rewards associated with that. So I just like the idea of having the opportunity to jump back into this game and sort of get something out of it. And having animated nameplates is really cool. And it's such a simple thing, but I never thought of being able to put on a nameplate that would move or animate in certain ways. So that has me super excited, even though it is very small. I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's a nice reward, and they don't really go into detail on it, but I'm hoping that these animated nameplates are character specific, because I know they said I think you can use it for any character, which is a slight bummer, because I don't know why. I don't know if you do this, so if you do, please take no offense, but I don't know why anyone would want to have their main Hawkeye have a nameplate that's just one of the generic ones that's just a hallway, you know? Like,
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, oh, the Avengers Tower is my nameplate. Like, no, you want your character shown off in the nameplate.
exactly. So I do hope they have some tie to each character. I'm expecting not if they do say that they can be slotted in for any character, but we'll have to wait and see. They did say that there are also hero specific nameplates that will be in the marketplace on the blog post, though. So that might be where we have to go for our specific fix if we want our hero specific animated ones.
Sure. I do agree. I hope it is the ones that you can get by completing these missions are hero specific ones. Like it'd be cool to have Cap throwing a shield in a nameplate, for example, or Iron Man sort of blasting off or something like that. So, again, it is a small thing, but I think it's a nice little addition, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this looks like. And it's happening so soon.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I know there was kind of a worry that people were like, oh, is it only going to be this one mode we have to load into if we want to have however many characters? It seems like that's not the case. Like, it doesn't seem like we have to be playing a Tachyon Rift to be doing four Iron Mans. It seems like you can do four Iron Mans for any mode just during this window, which is nice, you know? And like you said, it's probably there to just see if it gives a boon to matchmaking or if it breaks anything. So, uh, yeah, overall, I'll definitely check it out. I'll definitely try to load in and see if we can get a bunch of Thors or something, or however many characters are going off. But in the end, I don't know how important this would have been in the grand scheme of everything for this game.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it would be all that important. It is, I think, what, like a week or two long event.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's nice to have. It is very small content, though, in the grand scheme of things. It's obviously not anything super significant that will get people back in for a long time. It's also like limited to a time frame, so it's not going to have this drive for a long-lasting effect. So yeah, it's not too crazy, and I think we always give this game props, even though comparatively, like, if Apex had this or if Destiny had this, it'd be like, oh, that's cool, but not really all that much. And so comparatively, this is nothing compared to what other games are doing. But for Marvel's Avengers, this is a step in the right direction, I suppose.
Yeah, because I think best case scenario, if there is a long lasting, shift after this event, it would be like we were discussing of like, oh, you know what? Let's just make it so you can load into anything as any character anytime. Which, maybe that's something that comes out of this. We'll see, but it seems to be the plan right now is just like we're talking about. See what happens. If it works, it works. And honestly, I feel like it'd be very interesting if, like, now that this is finally a thing, maybe just Iron Man is the most played character. So, like, suddenly matchmaking works because everybody's playing Iron Man. It's like, oh, now I can finally find people, like, I'd be very interested to see numbers, just like the analysis of what this event does on the back end. But, yeah, I'll definitely log in. I'll try to get through that entire mission chain that they're throwing out there for the hive mind gear, but mainly just because I want a reason to play the game every week. I don't really care about the gear they're teeing up out of this. I'm sure it's going to be whatever, just like every other gear set that I've acquired. But
yeah, and this is lining up nicely for me because I am just about finished with Hawkeye's challenge card, and that will completely render the game utterly unplayable for me because I will have nothing else to do in the game. So it's lining up pretty nicely where, like, next week I'll be able to jump in potentially with you and then do some of these challenges.
Hell yeah. So this is what's gonna be the state of the game until May 3rd. So also they said the first Tachyon Anomaly, which is interesting to me. So this might be a returning event, and maybe if it just becomes popular in the long run, they make it a staple. But I did think that was an interesting the way they talk about, oh yeah, Kate and Hawk and Clint are season one. This is the first Tachyon Anomaly, so like we'll see what happens, but
I wonder if Tachyon anomalies going forward are sort of testing grounds for future potential like gameplay implementations, where it's like, oh, people want to play as the same character. Let's do an anomaly and see how that works on our servers and see how it affects the game. If it works, then we'll put it in, and like maybe for the next one, it's a different sort of implementation for gameplay that would like affect the game somehow, and just sort of test it out and see how it goes. So that's with like the Tachyon anomalies and like pulling in from the multiverse being like the rationale for why this is a thing, like as the explainer. So maybe that's what they're gonna do.
yeah, and that sounds pretty cool because I think some like MMOs have test servers that you have to like sign up for. So if this game goes along that path, but they contextualize it, that'd be very funny.
Sure.
But while that is the state of Marvel's Avengers moving forward, we'll have to see when the Red Room content drops. I'd imagine probably exactly a month or so after this, if this is running to the beginning of May. We have some other stuff going on with Marvel because meanwhile, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness has wrapped shooting, or is going to wrap shooting this week.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I think. Oh yeah, you had this on the doc that Kevin Feige was wearing a hat for Multiverse of Madness. The staple of his outfit, of his attire. So yeah, totally official. This is coming out like early 2022, right?
I believe so. I think it might be March of 22. Maybe the recent delays pushed it to May, but it's one of the M months, I'm pretty sure. So look forward to it. I am hopeful. That hat is interesting. We got like, how would you describe that hat?
Honestly, I can't picture it off the top of my head.
So we get
probably black.
It's a black hat. We get Doctor Strange's window logo in the middle, and it's split up like one of those really bad early 3D approaches. Like it's red and blue, like there's the center gold Doctor Strange logo. To the left, it's slightly offset, and there's a red one. To the right, it's slightly offset, and there's a blue one. So I don't know if anybody has some 15-year-old paper 3D glasses with a red and blue lens laying around their house, but I would like to know if you do, if you put those on and you look at Feige's hat, is there confirmation about Tobey Maguire being in the MCU?
You know what this thing looks like? I just pulled up a photo from the Direct.
What's up?
It looks like a 3-dimensional basketball on like psychedelics.
Sure,
because
I can see that.
The Doctor Strange logo just sort of like lines up with the two vertical lines and the two horizontal lines that it looks like the black lines of a basketball. So it's very silly. It's a very silly logo.
Yeah. Now I am wondering, because we know Wanda's in this, if we get a red version of that, is that about a Scarlet Witch thing? What's this blue one mean then?
Ooh, we got blue powers from Monica Rambeau. So.
Ooh, very true, maybe. Jack. Is there a Navy witch?
Navy. Well, Monica, or not Monica. Agatha wasn't she using purple stuff?
Yeah, she's purple, but this is definitely a blue. This is a blue.
Yeah. This isn't like the new Nintendo Switch, which is clearly purple.
Sure. Well, yeah, so, it's cool. MCU is back on track, presumably. We'll see how everything nets out moving forward. Another thing I saw making the rounds recently was that Oscar Isaac is training for Moon Knight. Now, Jack, I don't know if I just, like, completely wiped out a week of my mind, but was he ever officially cast? Was, like, there a Marvel being like, and our Moon Knight is Oscar Isaac? I don't remember that.
No, I was about to bring up the same thing. I don't remember an official confirmation of Marvel coming out, in which they would have during their December, the press thing that they had. And they were doing casting for all of, like, Ironheart and, I think, those future projects. And then they mentioned Moon Knight, and they were like, we're really excited. And then they just kept going, and they didn't. And there were rumors about Oscar Isaac being Moon Knight, and they didn't address those. So I think that's still the case. I think people are just. I feel like it's just an unofficial official thing at this point where people just know that he's Moon
Hmm.
Knight, or he's training for something else and he's not Moon Knight. But I think all signs are pointing that he's actually Moon Knight.
Yeah, because I think I saw some report that said like he was training, and also Ethan Hawke was as well, who apparently is also not confirmed but confirmed to be in Moon Knight. So curious. I wonder when they start shooting this. If it's like a this year production, does that mean we're gonna get it next year? Maybe. Don't know.
Yeah, turnaround for MCU projects is like super quick, right?
Hmm.
Like, um, pre-production to post-production is feels a lot quicker than other movies. Um,
Yeah,
so I could see this being a 2022 to 2023 movie, honestly. Or is it a TV production?
I think it's a show. Yeah.
Okay,
So
that tends to be longer, right?
I mean, so far for Disney Plus, it seems like they can turn those shows around real quick. Like at
Yeah,
least with WandaVision and Falcon are a bit different, I think, because they use on location stuff. But Mandalorian was able to pump out like a lot of content within like 2 years. And
yeah,
Book of
that's
Boba
just
Fett
so impressive.
currently. So
Yeah.
well, I don't know how they're gonna shoot the show if it's a lot of on location stuff, but yeah, I think you got the time window right, probably 22 to 23 early. So
Yeah, we were mentioning this last week, but that's not a character we are all too familiar with. So
mhm.
having Oscar Isaac as the guy that I feel like everyone just loves at this point because
Mhm.
of mostly because of Star Wars. I feel like he was of the main cast, he was the one that people sort of ingratiated themselves with and took to him because he was so charming in that role. Um, that I feel like him coming to the MCU is big news, and people are gonna love it. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Absolutely. I also should do some research because I would like to read a Moon Knight comic or two before things start popping off. Because I hear constantly comparisons to Batman. So,
Ooh, that has me intrigued. I just started the Court of Owls for Batman.
ooh, that's a good book.
Yep, I finished my Invincible read through. Let me tell you, you gotta read that thing. It's real
I
good.
will. I will. Are,
Um,
are you liking the show?
I am liking the show. It is very different from the comics because the comic really leans into the fact that it is a comic book and it sort of like pokes fun at tropes and um, like very not subtly references characters from like Marvel and DC and that sort of thing. Um,
Interesting.
and so far, the show really hasn't dipped into any of that. And the comic just has such a sarcastic tone that isn't necessarily being expressed in the TV show yet. But
Hmm.
the show I do like. I do like so far because it is still following the trajectory of the story of the comics, and that alone is just very enthralling. So yeah, I'd recommend reading the comics first and then diving into the show.
Good to hear. Well, another comic that I talked about wanting to dabble with a little bit after the recent news of their oncoming arrival to the MCU is Fantastic Four now.
Mm.
Jack, I'm sure you saw this, but the other day on Twitter, the Fantastic Four was trending for I have no idea why. I think people just all decided to start fan casting. I think that's what
Of
did it.
course, yeah.
So there's no Fantastic Four news, but I thought this would be fun because in the original run of Excelsior back in 2019, we had an opening segment for the show called Cast Me Baby One More Time, where this was around the buzz of the Disney acquisition of Fox. So we were like, hey, they're about to get a bunch of Marvel characters. We'll pick a random character. We'll cast them. I think we absolutely cast some of the Fantastic Four in that run.
Yes, we cast the Thing. I remember, and we cast Mr. Fantastic.
Now, I remember Mr. Fantastic because Pat, our audio producer back in the studio, was the deciding factor. You and I both provided one. I think Mr. Fantastic was John Krasinski.
That's right. Yeah.
And was the thing Dean Norris?
Oh yeah, big time.
Okay, so Dean Norris, for those that aren't familiar, Hank from Breaking Bad, If you didn't watch Breaking Bad, I don't know what else he's in, but
That's it. No, I'm kidding. I don't know what else he's in.
so I mean, we can each throw out if we have a full lineup, or we can just come to terms on some ideas. Like, do you want to start with Mr. Fantastic? Who do we think should be Mr. Fantastic?
Yeah, let's work together on this. I'm
Okay.
usually not the best with sort of coming up with people off the top of my head. I used to have like a running list of actors that I would refer to on the previous run of Excelsior. So this is another normie pick, but it has been circulating around for quite some time at this point, and I would love it if Rahul Kohli was
Yeah.
Mr. Fantastic. I feel like he has that presence to him. I believe he played a scientist in Izombie. I believe that was his role. So he has familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the familiarity with that sort of a role, and he is just the most charming person on the internet. And I feel like with the love he got from Haunting, was it Haunting of Hill House or
Haunting
that
of
what it's
Bly
called?
Manor was the sequel, I
Yes,
think.
yeah, Haunting of Bly Manor, which he was excellent in. I saw that, and he was great. So if he could just sort of transition that sort of scientist role that he's familiar with, and just his charming presence on screen, I would be very happy.
Yeah, I can co-sign that of perfectly because I listen. John Krasinski would be cool. Will it happen? Probably because he was almost Captain America. Um, I think Rahul Kohli is a great pick because, like you're saying, I watched a few seasons of iZombie, and I think he was like a medical examiner in the police corpse morgue, whatever it's called, um, and he fit into that scientist role well, and he was also pretty like sarcastic and witty the way that he is like in real life. Um, so yeah, I think he could transition to Reed Richards very well because Reed Richards, from the research I've done, is kind of an ass.
Oh
Like
yeah,
a lot of people look at him as like one of the worst humans in the Marvel universe, you know? Like people think that he has a shadier past and he's done worse things than Tony Stark. So like
mm.
I think having Reed introduced to the MCU, maybe we don't go the full extent of like, hey, this dude's a terrible husband because I don't they haven't really touched on that with like Hank Pym, who I know has a history like that. Uh, if the most we get of that is like he's a bit witty, isn't he? You know, like I think he could fit into that.
Yeah. Do you have a pick for Mr. Fantastic other than
Oh,
those two?
I'm absolutely Rahul Kohli. I think he'd be great. So
I'm reading this Games Radar article from 2020, and they suggested that Keanu Reeves be Reed Richards. What do you think of that?
I would maybe like to see him be someone like a Doctor Doom
Yeah,
because I feel like
that's a
Keanu
good
doesn't get
call.
to play a villain often.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, you're right because he is usually. Well, I don't know what his character was like in Cyberpunk because I didn't play it. It
Yeah.
seemed somewhat more antagonistic, but yeah, if he could go full Doctor Doom, that'd be cool.
Yeah, because like also think about this. Doctor Doom is a character who is supposed to stick around for a while, right? He's not this like he's probably under that Loki camp where he's a bad guy and he's like kind of the staple bad guy, but you know, when Galactus rolls up, Doctor Doom's like, okay, I'll help you guys out. So
Yeah, like occasional ally.
yeah, I think he could be very interesting in that role. But
Yeah, totally.
I've also seen I'll throw this out there because I think this is pretty funny. I've seen people throw out the Always Sunny cast for like the Fantastic
Yeah,
Four.
that's
Like
perfect. It fits so well.
yeah, and I think that honestly, I know they would never do that, but that'd be pretty funny if you just make the Fantastic Four kind of like some shitty people that like are just scientists and kind of famous. Like I know the Fantastic Four isn't like that really outside of Reed, but it just works too well. That's so funny.
I think Danny DeVito could absolutely play the Thing.
Oh, for sure, dude.
Right? Like I'm not super I know in the old Fantastic Four movie he was sort of a tragic character, but if they rewrote the script a little bit and they were like, let's just like let's just have him be Danny DeVito. I'd be all in for that because he is such a presence that people will show up for. So yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be great. What about let's do Sue Storm next. Who we thinking for Sue?
This one's tough. In that same article, they suggested Charlize Theron,
Okay.
which I think would be cool, but I can't think of too many. Do you have any?
Mainly because I just would like her to be in the MCU at some point. Ana de Armas, I think, could be interesting.
That's great. That's a great one.
Yeah, yeah. I did a updated list of who I'd like to see as the Fantastic Four probably like 3 months ago, and she was my pick for Sue. She has been blonde before, so we can make it work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think she'd be great as like a leading character like Sue, and she's just got that. I don't know. I feel like after Knives Out, it feels like she has a lot of weight in her performances. So I'd like to see her fit into that role of like having some pull in the MCU. Be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice. I have some other ones here from a comicbookresources.com article. So these are none of my choices. But if we want to talk about Izombie Cast, Rose McIver is the woman who played the lead role in iZombie. Mm-hmm. You cast her next to Rahul Kohli. They already had, I've never seen the show, but I'm just going to assume they had at least on-screen chemistry in the fact that they, played off of each other.
Yeah.
You put that into the MCU, I think it'd be cool. And she already has the blonde look that we're looking for, if they choose to go that route. So yeah, I feel like that'd be a cool choice.
Yes, and she's no stranger to being a superhero because she was a Power Ranger at one point.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I don't know what season or what version of that freaking show she was in, but she was a Power Ranger at one point in her life, so.
Another one that is on this list is Lily James. Have you ever seen Baby Driver?
I have, yes.
She is, I'm forgetting her name. I'm trying to remember
Deborah?
She is Deborah, yes. She is Deborah in Baby Driver. That's another person on this list. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I could see that. I think she'd fit in well. And I feel like the Fantastic Four, I think there's a maybe inherent thing to cast them older, but I don't know. I feel like casting like these young hotshots or younger, in the MCU compared to like all our 40 to 50-year-old Chris's, like maybe we just have a young group, up and comers, they're hot stuff, they're smart. I feel like that could be an interesting way to go about them because Fantastic Four should, I think, be players for a long time to come in the MCU, personally.
Yeah, I agree. It does seem... I think this will be maybe one of the final projects in the Phase 4 of the MCU. So it seems like with that in mind, they will be sort of the leaders, maybe, of the MCU going forward. Mm-hmm. So I agree. I think... if you start young, they have the opportunity for growth. So, yeah, I agree.
Definitely. Do you have any more things you want to throw out there for Sue, or do you want to move on to Gianni?
Let's move on to Gianni, because I don't have too many that I can think of for Sue Storm.
The popular one I see for Johnny Storm is Zac Efron.
Zac Efron is always used as, who should we cast as X? Zac Efron.
Yeah.
But in this case, I could see it because he could totally be a douchebag that Johnny Storm needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here, what I'm thinking for Johnny Storm, I think, again, like Zac Efron's what, like 30-something now?
Mm-hmm.
I think we should go younger because the thing with Johnny Storm, my favorite thing about the Human Torch is that he's really good friends with Spider-Man. I don't know if I see Zac Efron playing off of Tom Holland well at all in the slightest.
I could see them play off, but it would be more of the mentor role that Jake Gyllenhaal sort of played. Sure. And I feel like that's already been done, so I would prefer, like, I think what you're going for is like the more like peer relationship where they're both sort of on the same level and both around the same age. So yeah, I agree. But I could see Zac Efron fill that role.
I could too, yeah.
Yeah.
My mind, because I'm boring, goes to Stranger Things, but like the older kids from Stranger Things, so maybe like
Joe Keery.
Joe Keery maybe,
Hell
or
yeah.
Dacre Montgomery, you know? Because what was his name? Billy? He was the one who, spoilers for Stranger Things, died in the last season.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think he could play a good cocky Human Torch.
Oh, totally.
Joe Keery could too, though. Which one do you think gets the vibes more?
First of all, I love Joe Keery.
Yeah.
I'm enamored with Joe Keery. I actually worked with one of his family members at one point or
Ooh.
another.
Oh yeah, he's from Mass, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's from Mass, East Coast of Mass. So yeah, that's really cool. I also think he's just very handsome, so I would love to see him anywhere.
Great hair.
Oh my God, great hair, great hair. Very
Imagine it on
jealous.
fire.
Oh yeah, some waves going on. Yeah, I think that's great. Joe Keery it would be my choice. Speaking of sort of teen heartthrobs, I've seen a lot of people throw around KJ Appa for Johnny Storm, who is Archie from Riverdale.
Is it just because he has red hair?
Yep.
I mean, that's how fan casting works, right? I didn't you, do you remember you saw, I think Kevin, our friend Kevin Diaz, retweeted a while back when people were fan casting Fantastic Four the last time. It was like every person's Fantastic Four casting, and it was just people's hairlines.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's generally how fan castings go, you know?
There's another person that Screen Rant was suggesting.
Okay.
You ever see The Good Place?
I've not seen any of it, no.
The Good Place is a good show. I'm forgetting the character's name. So I'm gonna look up the cast, but it's someone from The Good Place. Oh yeah, Chidi from The Good Place,
Okay.
played by William Jackson, would be, I think, an interesting Human Torch. He plays like a very sophisticated, very cocky in a way because he's like sort of the know-it-all character in The Good Place. But man, I feel like if he stretched and was cast as the Human Torch, I feel like that'd be cool.
Now you say if he stretched, what if he was Mr. Fantastic?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably more in line with his character from The Good Place, so he does have that experience. But I want Rahul to be. I feel like he'd make some really funny, stretchy quips. I feel like they don't even need to write his quips. I feel like he's already got them.
Of course. Well, last but not least, we have one thing, comma, the. What does your mind go to with the thing? Because for me, I know we got, wasn't like Michael Chiklis the thing in the old ones?
Yeah. Yep.
And he like put on the rock suit. We're not doing that again. This is going to be a CG character. So like,
Yeah.
I think Bradley Cooper style, you cast someone for the voice, right? Like maybe in the first 10 minutes of the original movie, you have the actor on set, but you could have any stand-in for that character and then just give the voice dubbed over. And then, like, I don't know, but for me, I think you cast for the voice for the thing.
That's a good call. Yeah, because I think I totally agree with your point about Rocket Raccoon. Like, that's the most important part of that character, and I think for the thing, yeah, just go CG. I don't think he ever becomes a human once he becomes a thing. I'm not super familiar.
In Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer, he absolutely did. And
Well, let's just make him CG.
yeah, let's just make him
CG. Who do you got?
I mean, your cast and voice, my mind immediately goes to one of the most iconic voices there is, Ron Perlman.
Yeah, that's a good option.
Like, just imagine him screaming, "It's clobbering time."
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah, right?
I can picture it.
Yeah.
So I love my D Norris pick, and I would be totally happy if D Norris was the thing. But if we're going full just CG and it's the voice, I saw some recommendations from Game Rant, and I like the Nick Offerman choice. I feel like
Ooh,
along the same lines of uh, who did you mention?
Ron Perlman.
Yes, Ron Perlman. He does have that very iconic voice, like from Parks and Rec. He was known for, obviously he's known for his like conservative attitude.
Yeah,
But it was his voice, I think, that was uh, so like legendary in that character. So I feel like if you have the Thing lined up with Nick Offerman's voice, I feel like that'd be a great pairing.
absolutely. And I think there's enough with all of these choices that if they work together as a unit, it would be fantastic to see on screen. And that was not a pun that I meant to do.
Yeah.
But when do you think we get a casting announcement? Do you think it's sometime soon, like next Comic Con maybe, or?
Yeah, I was thinking Comic Con. There was supposed to be the Comic Con over Thanksgiving, and then they were like, "That's a bad idea." So, who knows when we get any sort of Comic Con like style announcements? Like, maybe they do a digital thing this summer. Maybe they do a digital thing towards the end of the year. But I feel like casting for the Fantastic Four is like undergoing right now. I feel like they're undergoing casting right now. So that's probably somewhat soon, right?
Yeah, because honestly, I would really just love Kevin Feige to get on a stage again and talk about what's going on. Because the last time that happened, Jack, I know he did his like a little snippet for Investors Day, but the last time he was on a stage and he was updating on projects and he was saying this is what to expect was 2019.
Yep. That was
That
like the WandaVision announcement. Wasn't that Natalie Portman holding the hammer, right?
I think and like Blade with Mahershala Ali was announced there.
Yeah.
No movement on that. So like yeah, I'd love to just see him get on a stage again and maybe bring out the Marvel's first family on stage the way we did for Avengers all of those years ago. But
100%. I miss it. I miss it dearly.
I do too. But you know what I'm going to miss?
What's that?
Falcon and the Winter Soldier because we got one episode left.
We're getting fat dubs left and right, Christian.
I know. Episode 5 has released the longest episode so far. You know, credits are credits. Count them or don't, but like it's still the longest episode so far.
I always hate every week when they release a Marvel or Disney Plus show. There's always people complaining about there's 8 minutes of credits. It's like, yeah, a lot of people worked on this shit. All right, let them have their due.
Yeah, man. Like the only time I ever have ever been annoyed by credits was Iron Man 3 cuz that shit was like 15 minutes long. I am not kidding. It
Didn't
was
you say
the
they like put like fake names in there just to piss people off?
I
Or is
don't.
that
They
something
could
else?
have, dude. Like maybe they did, because the thing is, there were so many names. It's like, oh my god, it was something. But this week, Fat Dubs episode 5. Spoiler free impressions. Jack, what did you think of this episode?
It was my favorite one yet. I think it really had. It was full of just super satisfying emotional payoffs that were set up from episode one and were expertly carried throughout the show. And I think it's a really great like penultimate episode where it lines all of its ducks in the row and it just set to knock them down. Should have said dominoes, but I'm gonna go with ducks. And I just think it was a very satisfying episode. I think there was a lot of character interactions that I totally adored, and I think the writing was very superb in this episode. We also had a really great action scene, and I know this. I feel like a lot of people are in this show for the action, rightfully so, and I'm always surprised of how great Marvel tackles its dialogue, and I feel like this episode really shined in that regard. So yeah, I think this is my favorite of the show so far. How about you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't know it. I'd have to think about all the episodes to say if this is a favorite or not, but I definitely think it's a big highlight out of the season. And much like WandaVision, I really appreciate when Marvel like gives more quiet moments and moments that aren't super satisfying on a bunch of levels because I like time to breathe, and I think this episode gave us a lot in context of the rest of the show because I feel like we were building a lot in every week prior, and this episode was like, hey, we're just gonna hang out. We're gonna have a beer. Gonna just think about some things, talk to some people, be a little introspective. So I really enjoyed it as well. Definitely a highlight of the show so far. But we can dip into spoilers if you want now.
Sure, let's do it.
Let's just start with the intro. We see the immediate aftermath of John Walker's murder. And Jack, we've had a week. There's a lot of people defending John Walker. I don't know if you've seen this.
Online?
Yeah, there's a lot of people like, oh, I feel so bad for him. He's just so misunderstood. He's put in this scenario. And like, also people are like, so now John Walker's a bad guy, but Wanda wasn't. Like, I think the people that are defending John Walker, maybe not all of them, but a good majority, also don't understand that police officers cannot shoot their guns unless they're actively being attacked. Like, I think that is what the same misunderstanding that's going on here.
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar. I think you're you're totally on point there. That's bizarre. I feel like maybe some of it are just people just being contrarians.
Sure.
And maybe some people not understanding the point of the show. But yeah, that is strange. That's very strange because you're right. At this point, like there was always some sympathy, a part of John Walker, because he was from episode 2. He like took that mantle up, and you could see him struggling with trying to do that. And throughout the show, he struggled with it. But he obviously reached the point of no return last week, and shows no sympathy for it, and is also trying to blatantly lie about what actually happened to sort of satisfy his own mental anguish. So yeah, it's bizarre that people are defending that.
Yeah, and I think the thing is too, it's like, I think he's just a well-written character. Because the thing is, I feel almost nothing for him. I enjoy watching his character arc, but like, he's like a shit guy, like, and he is like an everyday person, and you can see, kind of the writing on the wall this entire time of how this was going to go down, and everything made sense, and it's like, it's unfortunate, but like, yeah, this is just, he's going along with it, so I don't really feel bad for this guy. I think he's just well written on that level, and that's why people might have that feeling, but yeah, he just doubles down in the intro to this episode, and that entire scene with him, Sam, and Bucky, I really liked a lot.
I particularly loved the Falcon moves that were employed during this fight. Like,
Yeah.
using the wings in such creative ways was amazing. And like, obviously these movies are usually, or these, projects are usually action heavy. And at a certain point, like I watched Captain Marvel last night, at a certain point, there are just some action movies that just are all the same and they don't do anything unique. And I think Captain Marvel sort of falls in that camp a little bit, which is a little disappointing. But I feel like having something unique lets it stand out from the rest. And just Falcon using his wings to trip John Walker or fly up and hit him while do like a tag team move while Bucky's holding him. I feel like they did a lot of good stuff with everything that Falcon had at his disposal, and I want to see more because I thought it was great.
Absolutely. And I think also in that scene, from like a dialogue perspective, especially after the scene with Sam and Carly last week, seeing Sam talking to John here and what Sam does the rest of the episode, it's definitely like, yeah, this man is all but entitled Captain America at this point. I really enjoy seeing the way he's handling situations, and I'm glad Anthony Mackie's getting like actual stuff to work with now, because I always loved Sam. He was always my favorite like secondary character in the MCU, but seeing him actually be able to work with like writing and like character stuff, I'm really liking, and I think this episode really made it come to a head after they did that really great scene with Carly last week.
Yeah, 100%. And Bucky too, I like how both of them, even after witnessing what John Walker did, they're both still like in a way sympathetic to John, because they're like, hey, like we understand the pressures of this job, and like I think Sam was even like, you made a mistake. Obviously it's more than just a mistake, but they're trying to sort of like talk him off the ledge in a way. And even Bucky's like, don't go down that road, when he was trying to lie about that person actually killing Lamar. He's like, don't go down that road. Like I know where it leads, and it's not a good road. So I did like that. I think the writing is pretty great in this episode.
I thought it was also interesting because some of the discourse I saw over the last week was like, is John going to have any consequences? And I thought it was very interesting that specifically Sam was the one that was like, hey, they look at your record, you could be okay. I was like, damn, he knows. He knows how the
Yeah,
system works. I was like, all right.
that's a really good point. It's very unfortunate, but I'm sure they leveraged everything, all the meanings behind that. And yeah, he, like, in the grand scheme of things, he really just got a slap of the wrist for straight up murdering someone
Yeah.
by having that title stripped away. And yeah, I that purposely so. He really didn't get punished all that much.
Yeah. Any other stuff on the action scene? Like I'm with you. All the moves were really cool. Seeing Sam use the jetpack, getting the wings ripped off, I thought was very interesting. If we're gonna go for some metamorphosis with the transforming of Falcon to Captain America.
Yeah,
But
that was like brutal in the way of just the action of John Walker just straight up ripping those off. I thought that was really cool.
for sure. Also, I kind of liked how Bucky, like after the fight was done, like obviously it took a lot out of Sam because like Sam's not a super soldier, and Bucky was kind of the last one standing. He just threw the shield down, and he was like, "This is your problem." And then he walked out for a while.
Yeah, totally. I thought it was
Really,
they handled the scene very well, I think.
hell yeah. So we deal with a lot of ramifications this episode. What do you want to talk about first?
Um, do you want to save Julia Louis Dreyfus
Yes.
for last?
Yes.
Okay, let's save her for last. Should we talk about Zemo real quick? He's only in this for like a very brief scene.
Sure, we can. Yeah, we can talk about Bucky as a whole because I
Sure.
think that is basically Bucky's role in this episode outside of the last like chunk. But yeah, Zemo ran off to pay his respects in Sokovia, which I thought was interesting. And I don't know if Zemo's like playing Galaxy Brain 4D chess right now, but interesting. He kind of kept his word. I thought.
Yeah, I feel like now that you mention that, I feel like he totally is. Like, he wants to go to the raft, probably, now that you say
Yeah.
that. Because at any point during this, he could have just gotten away, right? He was already out of the reach of Sam and Bucky, and he could have just disappeared. But he sort of allowed himself to be captured by Bucky, and then the Dora Milaje, of course, who are bringing him to the raft. So yeah, there's something going on there. He's going quietly, but for a reason. So yeah, he probably is playing 4D chess, like what you said.
Yeah, because think about it. Like Zemo, he's got a charm. He can talk his way out of a lot of things. He can manipulate people. Who do they keep in the raft, Jack?
Bad
What
guys.
types of people do they keep in the raft?
Bad guys, super soldier bad guys.
Yeah, so maybe we see something more with a post credit scene at the raft with one Zemo or General Ross.
Yeah, who
But
runs the raft?
yeah. So, but yeah, seeing Bucky in that scene was really good too. I liked him and Zemo sort of having closure on the whole Civil War Winter Soldier stuff of like crossing the name off in the book and all that. So I enjoyed that scene really, like a
Like,
lot.
yeah, like not oddly, but oddly heartfelt in a good way of them sort of coming to like a mutual understanding between each other. And yeah, I thought it was great.
For sure. Also, it was cool seeing the Sokovia thing, just getting more insight into what that aftermath is like after Ultron. Still touching on that.
Yeah, totally. I like how the big tentpole movies all have their importance within affecting the greater MCU universe. Like Avengers 1 is always referenced, specifically usually with Tony. Sokovia was referenced in Civil War, and that was a major point in sort of turning the Avengers against each other, and for Zemo as well. And obviously Endgame and Infinity War being referenced now in Phase 4. So yeah, it's always good to see the ramifications of those bigger movies.
Definitely. So Bucky in this episode I think is interesting because that scene with Zemo is kind of the point where he maybe gets a little bit of closure behind the scene. We don't really get to pick up with Bucky a lot or what he's dealing with this episode. He just leaves after the fight, meets up with Zemo, maybe gets closure, and then he's like, you know what, I was too hard on Sam, and then he goes back to help Sam out for the rest of the episode. So I think maybe we're saving a lot of that Bucky character stuff for the finale because it seems like he's teed up to go talk to Yori next.
Yeah, 100%.
But
I love the back and forth between the two of them this episode, and it is clearly more of a like they've always been butting heads, but like in a playful way, at times antagonistic. But they're at the point now where they're like, we're friends. We're not going to call each other friends because that's our shtick, but we are friends, and they learn a lot from each other. And I don't think anyone could have predicted that a show about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier like 5 years ago would have been as poignant as it was, particularly in the interactions between both of those two characters, who were resigned as or relegated to the sidekick role. But it's been very great, and the dialogue between them in this episode is fantastic, I think.
I agree, and it's really exciting seeing them leave off on the note they're leaving off on of like friends, but we're not saying it because I don't know if you've ever seen like interviews with the two of them or just like stuff with like Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan. But I'm pretty sure they're like really good friends in real life. So being able to translate some of that to these characters back and forth, that's not always antagonistic, is gonna be just a lot of fun, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. The constant ribbing that's going to happen throughout the rest of the MCU is very, very exciting.
Hell yeah. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up just being surprised by it because I was also very surprised seeing at the very end Bucky talking to Sam of like, hey, yeah, so Steve told me about his plan and we did not, like, how could we, but we did not think of what it would be like for a black man to have to take on this role. And I was really glad that Bucky brought that up because, Steve's not around. He can't really have that look of like, hey, well, sorry, didn't think this through. But using Bucky as an avenue to have that discussion, I thought was great, and I loved that he was able to bring that up and sort of apologize and be very forward with Sam of like, hey, I just don't fully understand it. I never will, but I'm here for you. I really liked that.
I totally agree. I thought of a similar thing of during the Isaiah Bradley scene where that scene and the scene you just mentioned, I was totally like I really appreciate how they did not shy away from the themes that we were expecting and that they actually did set up in episode one, of being sort of more subtle about it. And I thought now they didn't shy away from it, and they're being much more like overt about the driving forces behind what's happening in the show and the sort of the social impacts of what does it actually mean for a black man to adopt the mantle of Captain America. And I'm very impressed that the MCU is tackling this. I think they're doing it well. Even if they didn't do it well, they are, like, attempted that. But I think they've written this show very well, I think. And was very surprised that this big MCU project is tackling something like this.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, like, to an extent, who am I to say how well they're doing it,
Oh
because
yeah,
I am
both of us.
white boy, but I think that, like you said, the fact that they are talking about this, and because I think that, I've read some of the Sam Wilson Captain America comics, and that's a major part of his origin, right? So the fact that the MCU, which, some Hollywood productions crumble under the pressures of like international releases because of how other countries might not be as open to having that discussion, and I don't think the US really is fully, but like just the nature of what the show's prompted and a lot of the denial from some MCU fans of like, this show's not about race, what are you talking about, don't make it political. Like I think that the conversations that the show is bringing on that level, especially for maybe younger fans of the MCU, I think is really important, and just another instance of comic books and comic book related things can talk about these things and can prompt discussions, even if it's about people in spandex punching things, you know? So I'm glad that they actually went through with it for sure.
Yeah, and what you mentioned about younger audiences watching and learning from this, like that's what that whole scene with, or that whole shot of Sam and his nephew, like his nephew is sort of like tracing the outline of Captain America's shield. Like that's what this is all about, right? So
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because yeah, that's very important.
Absolutely. We can talk about the Isaiah scene, you know, because I knew going into this week, some people were like, oh, is it going to be old Steve? Is he going to go ask for him? But some people were saying, like, no, it would make more sense if you talk to Isaiah. And I thought that scene was beautifully acted. It was very emotional. And Isaiah's story and him narrating it, and Sam just like taking it all in. Like he clearly looked very overwhelmed. A good acting from Anthony Mackie also, but that was a great scene, I thought.
Yeah, it was a very tragic story, and it totally makes sense to where we see Isaiah now, where Sam comes up and is like, "You're very bitter," and he's like, "If you get to my age, like it's something along the lines of like, if you're not bitter, you're blind," something like that. And we were speculating last week that it would be either Isaiah or old Steve, but in either of them would have taken the more like motivator role, being like, you are Captain America, you can take this. And I love how Isaiah fitting in with his character is more like, he said something along the lines of, they will never let a black man be Captain America, and if they did, a self-respecting black man wouldn't want to be, you know. So yeah, I thought it was very tragic, but in a way that was sort of a motivator for Sam to become Captain America in the way that probably Isaiah wasn't expecting. But yeah, I thought this is an amazing scene, probably one of the best in this show so far.
Yeah, because I was kind of expecting at some point during that back and forth for Sam to be like, "You're wrong," and then like I was really hoping they didn't do that because it's like, no, this guy's completely warranted in feeling this way, and I'm glad that Sam was like very understanding and sympathetic towards him, and clearly it like shook him. But I think Sam Wilson, as he exists, with some of that I believe in people sort of approach that Steve had, like maybe to some extent it's like being an optimist and maybe not seeing the world for what it is. But I think, like you said, that moment and with him and Isaiah and then Sam sort of being able to talk with his sister and then Bucky, like it's making him sort of realize that at his core he believes in people and he thinks that people can change, and if him, a black man, becoming Captain America can bring that about in some way, he would do it. And I think that scene did achieved all that for Sam's character. I think it was very subtle. I don't think we're ever going to like comment on it directly, but that's exactly what that scene did, and I'm glad that it was not super in your face of like Sam is like, oh, I'll pick up the shield and prove you wrong. Like I'm glad it was much more unspoken.
Yeah, and there were some like overt things in that scene of obviously being like just saying outright they would never let a black man be Captain America, which is great. I think there are points where you do need to hammer home the themes overtly like that, and I do appreciate that we were mentioning in sort of the subtle ways that they were weaving in the theme throughout the show. Of the first episode, we talked about how the bank scene sort of, it was reminiscent of like black men going off and fighting wars and coming back and still receiving persecution despite their efforts in like stopping evil. And Isaiah like blatantly mentions the Red Tails in World War II and how he saw them being like one of the more like decorated squadrons in World War II and coming back and, you know, having like crosses burned on their lawns from the KKK. So like it seems like they planted those seeds all the way back in episode 1, and they sort of go back to them in episode 5, and it feels so like fulfilling in a way of them actually addressing these things that we were talking about a few weeks ago.
For sure, yeah. And I think, like, I'm absolutely glad that they said that stuff. I meant more, I think, on the lines of, like, I don't think we need Sam to, like, narrate his entire decision-making process, I think. Like, I think
Totally.
that comes from a lot of the interactions he's had. And, because I don't think there would be time for him to give a whole, like, big speech about it unless it's, like, the final montage to wrap up the series. But, like, next week, I think we're picking up with him running to New York. Like, I don't know if he's gonna have a time to, like, talk with anybody about his choice to put that suit on, but yeah, I really love that the way they treated Isaiah and Sam and sort of the decision making process that we've been building up to. I think they did it better than I hoped they would have. So,
Absolutely.
um, what do you think of all the stuff with Sam back home and Bucky? Because I could see some people think it's like, oh, show's dragging. This doesn't need to exist. But that was like some of my favorite parts of the episode.
Yeah, I really like the levity of that sequence. Because it picks up there and then pretty much all the way to the end of the episode it is it's like light in a way, but I think it's showing like the community around Sam coming together
Hmm.
and helping them out. I loved the couple standouts for me was the interaction between Bucky and Sarah,
Yeah.
and Sam was like, "Dude, we already have this like playfully tense friendship. I don't need you to be flirting with my sister." So I thought that was funny, and
Hmm.
I loved the Falcon barrel reference. Like, I'm glad they fucking went for it, and
Yeah.
it worked for me.
That was really good. And just that entire sequence too of like Bucky helping and like the small humor of like Sam really struggling to try and get the thing out. Bucky just rips it off because he's a super soldier, and then like that because in that introductory scene too when he was fixing like the pipe that was burst, I was like, oh, Bucky's just gonna use the hand, and he didn't, and he's like, sometimes I just forget, I'm right-handed. Like
Yeah.
all that stuff between the two of them was great. I loved it.
Yeah, totally. Like what you mentioned earlier, it's always nice to have Marvel sort of scale down some interactions and just have characters just talking and seeing what's in their heads. And yeah, this is a great example of that. And some like there's some small moments where you can see their friendship sort of blossoming. Like Sam's working early in the morning on the boat, and then Bucky comes without even asking him, and then they just get to work together.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's cool. I've been more and more impressed by the interactions between Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, and I feel like this episode they both have some standout performances.
For sure, yeah. And I'm curious, after next week to look back on the show and see how it all works together because I early on, I think for the first 3 episodes or so, I did see some takes of like, oh, the show's boring. It's a 2 hour movie that's just padded out to be a show, which I disagree with heavily. I think that, like I said in my spoiler free thoughts, it's like I like that the MCU has this time to breathe and has these quieter moments because if this was a film, I guarantee you all the stuff with Sam, Bucky, in the boat would maybe not even make the cut or be much shorter. Because like, look at the farm in Ultron, right? Like that, I think in itself in the movie is like it's good, but like I think because it's taking up so much of a percentage of that film, it can feel like it's dragging. But here, I'm like, oh no, I'd take like an entire episode about them just at the house talking to each other, working on the farm. Like I really appreciate that Marvel Studios is taking advantage of the format because I think with WandaVision and this show so far, and we'll see how it ends up next week, but like I think most of the downtime they're using well and is earned, and I'm enjoying it.
I wholeheartedly agree. Like I said, I finished Captain Marvel last night, and it touches on some topics that are great, but I feel like it doesn't like fully dive into them. And I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking like, man, I wish this was a TV show because it's all about sort of Carol Danvers accepting her and searching for her identity. And a large part of that is her as a woman, and I sort of wish they delved into that a little bit more, which I'm sure they will in the sequel. But that just had me thinking of, like what you said, Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision sort of touch on all these topics that you wouldn't expect a Marvel project to actually touch on. And they tackle them very well and with a lot of nuance. And yeah, it just it has me thinking of, if we're gonna delve into character, I kind of want TV shows for that, because there's more time to sort of flesh it out.
Yeah, man, I think it's an interesting conversation that I've been thinking about for a while that I'd definitely like to have at some point, but I think I might have briefly said it during WandaVision, but if I know this won't happen, but if we got to a point where the MCU was 90% TV and then the movies were just the big spectacles that you'd want to see on a big screen, I think I'd be okay with that, because so far you've taken a lot of characters that have been relegated to the background and given them massive opportunity to shine and be the A-listers for the future of this franchise. And I think that's very impressive, and I'm loving the way they're doing it. So glad we're getting more Marvel TV for sure.
Yeah, totally.
But what do you think about the John Walker stuff this week? Because we see him talk to Lamar's family. We see him at not his court date, but his dishonorable, semi-dishonorable, I forget how they phrased it, discharge and stripping of the title. What did you think of all that stuff with him this week?
Yeah, he's like very clearly deranged at this point, and is trying to like hide and bury the actual narrative with the one that he's brought up. So he's probably beyond saving at this point. I can't imagine that episode 9 he'd be like, you know what, I guess I was wrong about all that stuff. Like what we talked about with last week, the serum just makes that person like 100% more of what they actually are. And I think that we're seeing that with John Walker and how he's handled the fallout from what happened. So yeah, I feel like he's beyond saving at this point.
Yeah, I'm glad he had his outburst in the scene with the senators, because it's like, okay, that's like he's too far gone at this point that the serum's just affecting him. I think it's very interesting that nobody really knows he took the serum yet. Like the senators don't seem to know, at least. I also really liked his line where he's like, "You built me," because I took that as him not directly talking to them, but just talking to like the system of like, my first response is violence. I fought in a war that probably shouldn't have been going on. I was awarded for doing terrible things that I regret doing, and my first instinct here was to murder that guy. And the system, the things in place that I've been applauded for are what brought me to the point of doing this. So I'm glad that that line was in there. Maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but I am glad that they addressed that a bit with his character.
No, I totally think you're right. In a way, he was essentially saying like, how am I really at fault if you were the ones who sort of taught me to do this in a way? So yeah, it's interesting. He's ending up a little bit more nuanced than, or he's ending up sort of as nuanced as I was hoping, I suppose, because I didn't want him to just be like seek this power and be the bad guy, just because we just see that all the time in any movie, really. It's only after the death of, or like around the time of the death of Lamar, that he sort of changes in that way. So, yeah, I feel like they're handling his character pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. And the scene with Lamar's family also, I thought, was just, again, bringing up more complexity with John Walker and the way he's dealing with things, because like, he's making all the wrong decisions right now, right? Yeah. Like, he's lying to his family. He's clearly building up a revenge plot. He is just making poor decision after poor decision, and the serum amplified it. That's why it's happening. It was always there, but yeah, because I remember before the show started, I think, or maybe at the first episode, you and I were like, hope he doesn't turn into just like maniacal laughing bad guy. It's like, I'm evil, but like, there's definitely more layers to that. He definitely is kind of irredeemable, I think, but there's layers at least, so I like that.
I agree.
Now, a pretty major point with his character this week is tied to that cameo of a surprising character that was teased after last week's episode came out. Some people were like, is this going to be a surprise scene with Chadwick Boseman in Wakanda that they shot because the show's been in production for a long time? Is it going to be Old Man Steve? No, it was Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Dude, I was blown away.
Me too.
That they got Julia Louis-Dreyfus, an incredible actor that I don't want to say like would have like turned her nose at this, but you know, you expect like that caliber of actor to be like, not that they're above this, but you know, take other types of projects that they don't need to be in the big blockbuster
Right.
projects, but they pan up from her boots to her in sunglasses, and I didn't realize it was her. She takes them off, and my immediate thought was, Veep? Is she actually the vice president? Turns out she's not, but that was what I was thinking.
Did she say something before they like did the pan up? Because I think she might have, because I recognized the voice and I was like, who's that? And
she said, these boots are certainly not made for walking. Then took the glasses off.
Okay, because I heard that and I was like, that's not her, right? I was like trying to process who I thought it was, but I didn't know who it was yet. But I was like, it's not her though. And then I saw it, so I was like, oh wow, okay. Surprised it didn't leak.
Is in the show. Yeah, dude. That's a great reveal. Because for the whole scene, I was like, no way this is happening.
Yeah,
Julia Louis-Dreyfus is not in this show, but yeah, man, that was so cool. I'm glad to see her in this.
Yeah, so basically, she's not there too long, right? John is there with his wife, I think.
Yep.
And they're sort of dealing with the ramifications of his, stripping of the title and all his accolades and everything. And then she shows up. I thought she was doing some great comedy too, just like the slight like squeezing in between the two of them and everything.
Yeah.
Very good. And like she's talking to John, really trying to reassure him that like, hey, there's other people that are interested in super powered people. She probably knows that he took the serum, or she says that she knows, right? And sort of praises him, I guess, for making that hard decision to kill the guy. So I thought it was a very interesting scene. I was caught off guard. It was a great surprise, but I do think that this is 1,000,000% setting up the Thunderbolts.
Yeah, I was thinking either she is the power broker herself, or is like the Coulson to Thunderbolt Ross's Nick Fury in a way.
Yep.
Because she has blue hair and she has blue glasses. Like, that sounds silly, but like that's a purposeful production choice. And what else is blue in this, Christian?
The serum.
The serum. And she's very interested in the fact that John Walker specifically took the serum. So she's interested in that, and the power broker is as well, in the serum at least. So she's either working with the power broker or is the power broker herself, probably.
Yeah, I could see it end up being her. I think even if she is the power broker, I absolutely think the power broker is working for Ross, and it makes too much sense, Jack. There's always been this rumor that they're gonna do the Thunderbolts, and Ross has been in there since basically the beginning of the MCU. They brought him back in Civil War for a reason. They could have just completely written him off. Nobody really remembers Incredible Hulk, but they were like, oh, we'll bring him back, and also we're bringing back I forget the guy's name, but Abomination in the She-Hulk show. Like, yep. I think it's purposeful. I wouldn't be surprised, because I know the card had nothing on it. Maybe that was just to distract his wife from stop asking questions. Or maybe there's a secret thing you got to hold it up to the light, Uncharted style.
That's exactly what I was thinking, dude.
Yeah.
Or National Treasure. Some lemon juice.
Yeah. like she's recruiting, right? Like that's what happened. She looked to him and was like, "Hey, I'll call you. The people are interested in people like you." So yeah, dude, I think we're building up the Thunderbolts. I also read a little recap right before we started shooting or recording that I think Paul Tassi wrote up something about the character she's playing. I'm forgetting her name, but in the comics, she has a history. She's worked with Shield. She's worked with Hydra. She has roots in Russia.
Is it like the highest
She
bidder she'll work for, essentially?
kind of, and like I think she worked for Shield. She infiltrated Hydra, became Madam Hydra at one point. Like,
Whoa.
yeah. So I could see a world where the MCU is no stranger to like taking a character and kind of retooling them to be almost nothing like what they were in the comics. So I wonder if you nailed it. Like she's the recruiter, she's the Coulson. Because if Ross is trying to build his team of Thunderbolts that he can, basically use as his Suicide Squad, his personal dogs for taking care of problems off the books, like it would make sense that Ross can't be the one going out there, right? Like he's got to be recruiting. He's got to be hiding even more than Fury does when he was setting up the Avengers.
Hiding in plain sight because he's the president of the United States? Question mark?
Maybe,
Because
maybe, yeah,
I was watching Infinity War recently. He was Secretary of State
yeah.
at a point, and he's getting there. And we haven't seen the president recently. We could have a Metal Gear Solid 2 situation on our hands, Christian.
Oh yes, please. But what I thought was most interesting, right? Because let's say Julia Louis-Dreyfus is playing this Coulson-esque character to recruit villains to become the Thunderbolts. This show was supposed to have come out after Black Widow. We have, I think, what's it? Something Master, Tony Masters, right? Taskmaster in Black Widow.
Yeah.
Taskmaster seems like a valuable asset to the potential Thunderbolts, right? I think because we're doing a prequel, we're introducing a new Black Widow potentially. We're introducing Taskmaster, a scorned S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Might be very interesting if she popped up in Black Widow and scooped up the old Taskmaster for her team, for Ross's team too.
Oh, dude, it's like a reverse Avengers, essentially.
I know. Is Marvel Studios gonna make their own Sinister Six after all the years that Sony failed?
Yeah, I mean, more along the lines of Suicide Squad, right? And
Yeah.
dude, I think if you would have told me that like a couple weeks ago, and it was just Ross, maybe I would have been like, all right, we'll see what that is. But now that Julia Louis-Dreyfus is involved, dude, sign me up. I loved seeing her. She's great. She's amazing. And yeah, she already is bringing a charm and wit to this character. And I'm excited to see more of her.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say in that article, I think he titled it like, COVID messed up an interesting character thing, because apparently, so we were supposed to get Black Widow first. Apparently, she might be in Black Widow. So if we are building this, maybe they have to reshoot what her scene is in Black Widow. Maybe she's post credits, but like, dude, supervillain team, it's coming. It's exciting.
Dude, that's so exciting. That's so different than what Marvel's always been about, like heroes, capital H heroes, and we haven't really delved into anything along those lines. So yeah, that's exciting. That's very exciting.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because I think this episode also leaves us off with the idea that John Walker is now becoming either Super Patriot or U.S. Agent, his aliases in the comics, but like he's making his own shield, very Tony Stark-esque, not in a cave with a box of scraps, but in his garage with some sheet metal, like.
Yeah, adhering his Medal of Honor onto it. I thought that was so disturbing.
I know. I was like, oh, yes, dude. This is messed up. You want to talk Metal Gear energy. That is some Metal Gear stuff.
Yeah, totally.
But, yeah, overall, pretty great second to last episode. Do you have any other things you want to talk about that we breezed over? I mean, we get some more Sharon stuff. There's the stuff with Carly and Batroc. But
Yeah, let's talk about that actually because Sharon hires Batroc, um, and it seems like he's going to be working with Carly as a way for him to get revenge against Sam.
mhm.
And clearly, like Sharon would have had to know that, right? So is I feel like there's like two scenarios. Either Sharon is working with Batroc to undermine Carly, despite the tension between him and Falcon, or she is just blatantly using him to get profit and doesn't really care about her friends being hurt.
Yeah, that I was trying to figure out what was going on there because I couldn't tell uh, who she was talking to, but Batroc makes sense.
Yeah, because the subtitles say like
Okay,
Batroc screaming, and he was also speaking French. The person was speaking French over the phone, so I think it was him.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm wondering what's the case then. Like maybe she just thinks that Sam can, if he beat him before, he can beat him again, and she's just trying to get to Carly this way.
Hmm.
Maybe, um, but I know there's that theory that she's the power broker. I still don't see it. This was a questionable decision she made, but I'm not ready to say she's power broker. Uh, but yeah, I think it does throw out the possibility of like how much does she believe in Sam and Bucky that she would risk potentially not getting a pardon if Batroc killed him, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Because my thinking was like, dude, Sam's working for you right now after all this is done, so like you could mess that up pretty severely. But maybe she's thinking like she's not holding her breath, right? And right now she kind of has. I don't want to say she's living on easy street, but like she's making a lot of money over in Madripoor, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I feel like she might just be like, well, fuck it, I'll just stay here and just double down on what I'm doing.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I still highly doubt that she's the power broker because if she is, that's pretty bad writing. I think
I agree.
you're basically like confirming she is every time she does something, but you don't say she like what like unless it's like a super casual thing in the end where she's like, oh yeah, by the way, I was the power broker, and like she's all buddy buddy with everybody still like. Then why introduce that? It's just weird, dude. I don't see it happening.
I'm the Mandarin.
Yeah,
Same energy.
basically.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I like the idea of her being her past sort of and being let down by her friends in a way, uh, causing her to do these less than savory activities to sort of make a living.
Hmm.
I don't think I like the idea of her being the power broker. Maybe if they explain it in some sort of way, then I'd be down for it. But I have the feeling that obviously Julia Louis Dreyfus is involved somehow, whether she is the power broker or not.
Hmm.
Um, or it could be Ross and she's an underling for Ross, which that I feel like makes a lot of sense and I feel like could be written into the show quite well. And maybe Zemo's getting sent to the raft and we get an end credit scene of Ross coming out, very similar to how Steve Rogers did. And goes, we're building a team. And
Hmm.
oh, yeah, I'd be all about it.
Yeah, dude. Because like I know the Ross theory is a bit of a reach, but I think that there are seeds being planted that make it make sense. Because I mean, I've thrown out all the reasons I'm thinking it. I think those are fair enough to be suspicious, but yeah, like clearly the power broker has a network, right? So like I definitely think they're teasing the power broker thing to be a large scale infrastructure in this universe, and I think writing it off as like, oh yeah, Sharon, it's just her. I think is like really takes the weight out of what they're building up for and makes it unsatisfying. And like, if that is what it is, okay, I think that's kind of a needless subplot they would have done in the end. But I think it's more than just like surprise. It was Sharon.
Yeah. I think Ross makes sense because he at one point tried to control the Avengers with the Sokovia Accords, and that didn't work. And even in Infinity War, he sort of, brushed aside quite literally by Rhodey, and he like literally has no control over the Avengers at that point. So I feel like having his own team of super soldiers that he can control with an iron fist because they are criminals and they don't have the same rights as just people who can just go out and walk around and live their normal lives in a way. I feel like that makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, I'm thinking we might see Ross. I'm thinking that's possible.
Hell yeah, that is absolutely the post-credit scene. Count on it.
Totally. Like you just have, I feel like you can have a nice like circular shot of all the cells in the raft, and maybe we have Zemo in there. We have John Walker newly put in there. Maybe Battletrock, probably not. Who cares about him? But along those lines. And then you just have Ross walking out of the shadows, be like, it's time to talk.
Yeah, and I think having this team as an option opens up the MCU to have that sort of like cold open sort of situation the heroes are dealing with, right? Like sort of what Civil War was with Crossbones, but I feel like if it's a recurring cast, it's much more entertaining,
Totally.
So we will see what happens, but we have only one episode left of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So before we wrap up, Jack, do you want to throw out any final predictions? We got that suit going on. We didn't talk about that too much, but that's a lot of next episode stuff. So final thoughts before we break for the week and come back having seen the end of the show.
Yeah, that's a good point about not talking about what's in the suit. I thought that was an excellent tease at the very end. I truly hope it is his comics, like a comic accurate outfit of him still having the Falcon wings, but being more streamlined into him as Captain America. That'd be really cool. I'm holding out hope that we get an old Steve at like maybe the very end of the show, being like, you did good, something along the lines of that. What about you? What do you expect for next week?
Yeah, that's a Wakandan nanotech suit that has the wings inside of it, and the wings will probably like nanotech out the way Stark's, like turrets come out of his shoulders in Infinity War. I'm expecting that. I kind of like the idea of Sam not having the wings out all the time and sort of just having him fold out, as Cap when he needs them. But yeah, I'm hoping it's a good looking suit. I have faith. I don't think there's ever been a bad MCU suit since like the Power Rangers Avengers one for Cap. But yeah, I'm excited to see what it is, and seeing him get the suit. I'm wondering also, I wanted to ask you this. Maybe I could see a world where because it's Wakandan tech, the suit gives Sam the strength equivalence of a super soldier, and then he doesn't take the serum. I could maybe see that be the case.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that. I still do think that he will probably be offered the serum at some point or another next episode.
Yeah.
Because there's got to be, I kept this one in my back pocket, It's got to be one of those.
And I think Carly, you were right with that prediction last week. I think Carly is probably going to be the one that's like, hey, I have this. Maybe she's, dying, and she's like, please, you agree with me, continue the fight, but do it your way. I believe in you. You're my Captain America. Here's the serum.
Yeah, because they were mentioning this like on the news that was covering it. There's the Patch Act that's trying to be fast tracked and passed, which would send refugees back to their countries of origin. And I think it's fair to say that both Falcon and the Winter Soldier don't agree with that, and are on. Even Sam says like, I like empathize with your plight to Carly, and I feel like it'll be like, I feel like it'll be similar to like how in Black Panther T'Challa sort of takes up the cause of Eric Killmonger, but goes about it in a different way, like what you were just mentioning. So yeah, I think that's probably a possibility.
Yeah, regardless, I'm excited to see what's up. I'm excited for Sam to give Bucky a call, be like, hey, meet me in New York, and we get our big final battle. And honestly, we all know Marvel always has a final battle, you know,
Oh yeah.
always, no matter what. I'm just glad it's not like a surprise, this villain was pulling the strings and here we go. Like, I'm glad it's like, no, it's very much tied to the story, these characters, the Flag Smashers, John Walker, and Sam and Bucky. So I'm
Yeah,
glad we kept it reserved, I guess, to a certain extent.
totally. It's almost like we know what to expect, but we just kind of want to see how they approach it.
Yeah, dude, I can't wait for that suit reveal.
Dude, I want to see, like, talk about the wings that were being used in such a unique way. I want to see a combination of Captain Falcon just pulling out those wings, throwing the shield around, using the wings maybe to hit the shield in some sort of way. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to that aspect of the fight scene.
Oh, and fun little tease along the lines of like a next time baby kind of. When they're still in that city in Europe where Carly's base was, like, are you proud of me? I finally got her name. I've said her name a lot this week.
Well done.
I know her name.
Enfys
Thank you.
Nest. No more.
Yep. Um, like it's after the wings are ripped off and Sam takes the shield and then Torres is like, what do you want him to do with the wings? He's like, oh, you keep them. I'm wondering if in the comics, at least, I know that Torres becomes the new Falcon.
Right.
So I don't know if we're building to that, maybe.
I think that is quite likely. I think that's quite
Yeah.
likely. You mentioned Rhodey because they're essentially like taking on that role the next
Yeah.
time, baby. We
Yeah.
did see him in episode 1. Do you think we see him either join the fight or maybe after the fight be like, hey, that was a good job you did back there?
Dude, if we get a final fight with our brand new Captain America and War Machine and the Winter Soldier, or sorry, the White Wolf, that's a cool ending. That'd be a pretty cool final fight.
Hell yeah. I want to see Bucky take that name of the White Wolf and like maybe have a sick costume to go with it because he hasn't had a cool costume since Winter Soldier or maybe Infinity War.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like he has a cool little leather jacket with the arm out this show,
Sure.
but yeah, I'm definitely down to see Bucky out there as a hero. So
Totally.
excited for the final fight. Do you think we're gonna hit an hour next week also, or are we gonna be a little shorter?
I think it's probably comparable to what we got here. Maybe not as long, but I feel like we've been hitting 40 to 50 minutes each episode in the past few weeks, so it's probably along those lines, yeah.
So very nice. Wow. IGN gave the episode a 7.
I saw that. I just have not been agreeing with IGN reviews recently with the TV shows. I don't. I'm on a different wavelength with their reviews for this kind of stuff. Anytime they're like, "Oh, that was a 9," I'm like, "Oh, that was more like a mid," you know.
Well, hopefully next week ends strong. But Jack, until then, where can the agents of Excelsior find you?
Sure, you could follow me on social media at FascinatedJack. Christian and I, along with our friends Kevin and Omar, do the Long Play Club, which is currently going through Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. Let me tell you, breath of fresh air compared to Metal Gear Solid 3. It is great. I love jumping back in it. I want to jump in it immediately after this recording, probably. So if you are a big Metal Gear fan or just a fan of just video game discussions, you can find the Long Play Club on youtube.com/joyclicks or on podcast services of your choice. What about you, Christian?
Sure, you can follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at Shun2D2, as well as here, youtube.com/joyclicks for the video version of Excelsior, alongside all of our other podcasts in their own playlists. Like Jack mentioned, the Long Play Club, we got a Star Wars show as well, so check those out if you're on the YouTube channel already. But if you want to listen to the show in audio format on Apple Podcast or Spotify, you can do that, or on another service of your choice. If you can rate or review the show on your given platform, it would be greatly appreciated, because if you can leave a review or tap a little 5-star button, it helps us out a ton, makes us feel happy about you enjoying the show. So feel free to do so if you enjoy the content. And if you want to get involved further, patreon.com/joyclicks is where you can go to support the shows at the $1 and $5 tiers, like Chris Sakas and Aaron Easton for producer credit. Thank you very much. But yeah, that's going to wrap up the penultimate recap of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Are we in store for another fat dub? Just one more? I hope so. I'm sure we will. But until then, Excelsior.
Excelsior.